Not excited that they're coming off a loss. I know how Coach Mulkey has a tendency to really get her teams focused all the time, but especially after one of those. So I'm just finishing up the scout, and as you're writing in grad student, fifth year, it's going to be a veteran team. It didn't have to change a lot of the scout from last year. You got a lot of those same faces, and then you add, a great player like Hannah Gusters to the rotation. So I do think we'll draw some positives away from the fact that it's a lot like the Baylor team from last year in a different color uniform, but the style is the same and their approach is the same. So I know our kids are looking forward to it as an opportunity rather than a challenge.
All let it rip.
Coach, can you kind of talk to us about how the two teams match up a little bit?
I think good in some ways. Obviously, I think there's some areas that we might have the advantage and some that they might. But I think, obviously their size around the basket, they do have a couple of rim protectors. And as a result, their guards can really get after you because they know there's some rim protectors back there. So that's problematic for us. And then the thing I think they present the problem for us is, they don't shoot a lot of threes. But they make a bunch of 16, 17 footers. So that, we don't see that a lot. You usually see people that have it inside or at the arc. This is a unique prep. We haven't prepared for anybody like this in a long time. So I think that's problematic for us. We'll have our white squad do the best that we can, but it's not something that we've seen in any of our previous games.
Do you feel like with guards being a strength of yours, something you can offset and a way you can offset Kayla Porter?
Yeah, I think that becomes our pace. I think our bigs can run, and that was something we did to Baylor. We made it problematic for them to play two bigs at the same time, and I think the pace at which we played our last 2.5 games, I hope they're looking at that as something they're going to have to really focus on. But we've got to be great at that. To do that, you got to rebound and come up with some stops. If you're constantly having to take it out of the basket, it's hard to play like that. So, but I do think that is something, and we've been working on that. It's something we've emphasized. It's something we've stressed. We've kind of got a new little stat. We call them push-up stats. About once every 4 years, I call these things Olympic moments because you can only do them once every 4 years. We'll jump in there and tell them that, hey, if as coaches, as a staff, we'll do push-ups if y'all won't allow these things to happen. Whereas y'all do push-ups if these things happen, and then we'll figure out what the difference is. So our staff did 50 push-ups after the Mississippi State game yesterday in practice. Sets of 10 because none of us are doing 50 in a row except for our strength coach, Tyler. So we have some push-up stats. And those push-up stats will be, changing every game. And for LSU, we've got to make them we've got to keep them from getting wide open 15 to 17 foot jump shots, and then we got to rebound. So
Order.
Coach, first I want to ask you about Erin. It seems like she's kind of ahead of schedule. She come back in playing, not even missing a beat. And so how important is it for you for this game to have her back full strength?
Well, she's one of those kids that can stress your defense out in transition. So she's on her way back. I think she's getting more and more comfortable with, the speed that you lose. There's no way that you can be out for as long as she has and not be a little bit slowed down when it comes game time. Practice, you try to simulate it, but there's just nothing that can simulate SEC intensity. So having her, a week further along in her recovery, she is as good as we have at stretching that floor in transition. And she's also a really good screener and passer in transition too. So making sure she's still healthy, which she is. She's had no reoccurring issues with that. Just helping her get her timing back. There's no way to replace that. You can't do that when you're on the exercise bike. You can't do that when you're doing the things on the side. So yesterday was important. Today's practice will be really important, and tomorrow's shoot around. Every single opportunity for her to be more comfortable catching up with what she missed has direct impacts, and specifically because of our desire to play in transition against LSU.
And my follow up would be about Samara. You know, just how she come back and had a really big game, and knowing a team like LSU that's going to try to key on Amber, how big is it for her to really get her confidence back and really get back to scoring?
Oh, I don't. Her confidence has never wavered. That is a kid who is supremely confident. She's realistic. She knew that she started out shooting a number that nobody was going to be able to continue to shoot for an SEC season, much less a freshman SEC season. So I'm proud that the ball's going in for her. She's playing confidently. I can always gauge usually with her by how quickly she starts talking about our opponents. Because she watches as much film as anybody I've ever coached. And I mean, we walked in there after our day off and she was already, talking about what she had seen on film out of all their guards. So I know she's ready. I think that encourages her. We're a week into school for those kids that, this is their first, second semester, and I think they've got into a little bit of rhythm of that. We were a little flat that first week. But she's played and practiced with a whole bunch of energy. And I think she's looking forward to the opportunity because she's been watching, Kayla Pointer play forever, and Alexis Morris and Jalen Cherry. She knew these kids before she watched them on film. She's been watching them play. And I think she's excited about a chance to get to play against them.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Before we move on, pronounce Samara. I noticed when we had her in there the other day, we were saying Samara also, but just nip that in the bud. Randy, we'll go to you.
Yes.
She doesn't mind, but yeah, good job, Mario. Just call her Sam.
Yeah,
That's
sir.
about it.
How about just Sam? Okay.
Yeah, that's Randy. There you go. I just go Sam nowadays.
I mean,
I used to have to do that with Ari and Ari McDonald too.
yeah.
When I had Ari at Washington as a freshman, we had Ari and Ari conversations all the time. So just started calling her A.
Well, when I got the press release on the SEC player freshman of the week, it became Sam real quickly because I wasn't for sure how to say it. All right. The evidence is really overwhelming, Mike. That is the fact with Spencer Goforth, Ramirez, Wolfenbarger, and Daniels. That was a lineup against Mississippi State that was 46-19, which is plus 27.
Yep.
So having Sam in the lineup, what caused this gap, if you will? I mean, this extreme plus for your team.
Well, I think in that particular matchup, because of the size of Mississippi State's guards, they didn't have they played little guards too. So Sam was able to match up offensively and defensively. I think she presented them a whole bunch of problems because their smaller guards were not as quick as she was. You look at the minutes played too, Randy. We pretty much matched up. I knew going in that Mississippi State's guards and all their players averaged 38 to 39 minutes a game. So we challenged our starters that this may be a game where you play more minutes than you have had to. I also thought the magnitude of the game, with us both being 2 and 3 in the league, I thought the magnitude of the game meant that we should probably, if they were going to play, we were going to match up. And as long as things were going well, which they were, we probably were going to play a shorter bench. So we didn't have near as many combinations on that sheet that you're looking at. Normally you'll have 12 to 15 different lineups. I think there were only 6 or 7 the entire game. But that was because we were trying to match up player for player. Like we had a plan that if a certain player came in, Emory was going to go in. If a certain player went in, Alana would go in. And we matched up literally more of a player-to-player matchup and then challenged each of our players to win their matchup. I think Sasha, obviously, with what she did with Rakia Jackson, if you're doing one of those side-by-side comparisons, she won that matchup. I think Sam won her matchup. And as a result, I think we all did, and as a result, we won the game. But Sam allows Mac to move off the ball. Sam allows Mac a couple of possessions where she doesn't have to guard Anastasia Hayes. And her offensive and defensive ability and versatility allow us to rest Mac without having to take her out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
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 I think that's what Sam brings you: offensive and defensive balance, ability to play both spots and be effective, which allows each of them to play really, really aggressively. You'll see him during a game. You'll see Matt kind of look at Sam and go, hey, you take the ball a couple of possessions. Or you'll see Mac say, hey, take Hayes for a couple. I got Jordan. So they've developed a really cool chemistry together of on the court without needing us as coaches to step in. You always hope your team becomes a player-led team by Christmas. And I think it may have taken our team a little bit longer because we were younger, but we're certainly getting close to coaches not being necessary down the stretch.
Cool. All right. One other question. Well, I got several more, but I'll just go with the next question. When do you mentioned the NET rankings a moment ago. Mike,
Yep.
When do you really start paying attention to those?
About now. The end of January, I just put them up on my board in the my conference room there a minute ago. They still don't mean everything, but they mean something now.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to the start of conference, non-conference, we all have different philosophies on what our team needs and what's best for our team. So they will fluctuate a little bit there. Now we're starting to have enough common opponents that it means something. It's still, like we've played Tennessee once and South Carolina once. If somebody hasn't played those guys yet at all, it will negatively impact their net. So you can't, Charlie Cream's got a really tough job. Everybody pays probably too much attention to what it currently means. I wish it meant something right now. I wish we could just fast forward and say, okay, that's the tournament. Let's go. But it's not. There's so many variables that still come in. But Randy, I can tell you just from historically, even though we've only had the net for a year, it's enough like the RPI. That last week in January is when I start getting these legal pads out and I start making notes. This is as of 1/26/22. And I'll do it again next week. And there are patterns. And I like where we're setting. I know that it's tenuous. You can certainly drop in a hurry in this league. But the fact that we don't have anybody outside the top 100, it means you're not going to drop too far, and you start getting, you start looking around. And that's why I've tried to actively, anybody that'll listen, I think there is a case for 10 teams in our league to possibly make this tournament this year. I think you're going to see, if it's the right team, I think you can see multiple 6 and 10 teams get bids, several 7 and 9s, because it's going to happen. It's going to be a really good team that goes 6 and 10. So hopefully, like softball committees do, there was that year that the SEC, I think, had a team in the softball tournament that didn't even qualify for the SEC tournament. So I hope that we can get our basketball league to that point, because I do think this particular year, because of the way teams are put together with a bunch, like LSU's team, for instance, they've got a bunch of veterans. There's not many leagues that have what the SEC has this year with the depth of really, really good teams. So that's a long answer to a simple question. Now is when I start looking at it and I can start making some predictions. And I think we should talk way more about the net than we do polls, because polls don't have any, they're not even on the list of criteria for the NCAA committee. They're not even on the list. They're fun to look at. They're fun to talk about. They're fun to do. I vote in it. And I like to vote in it. I like to have them. I'd like to be in them if they're going to have them. But boy, at the end of the day, considering that the net is a stated criteria by the committee, it'll start getting more pub, because I think tonight, is it tonight or next Monday? Next Monday, I think they're going to release the first 16 seeds. After when Ole Miss plays South Carolina, maybe on Tuesday night. I think I read that game got moved to ESPN. I thought it was really big of Don and Coach Ariema to move their UConn game, delay it so that they could make up that matchup with, now what two of our top teams in our league with Ole Miss and South Carolina being able to remake their game.
That's what's crazy about the net, though. The other night, now this is men. Ole Miss played Florida, beat Florida, but their net actually fell. That's how crazy it is.
none of us know what the formula is. It is a super secret Coca-Cola stays in a vault formula that nobody knows what it is, but we're starting to figure it out. There's enough good mathematicians. And Randy, I can tell you that something that is huge in this formula is how effectively you played, like your percentages, your offensive and defensive efficiency ratings. They mean a lot more than they've ever meant in the past when we just used wins and losses. You know, we lost to South Carolina, and I think we stayed the same. And then you beat Mississippi State, and I think we moved up 8 spots. And there's so many variables with everybody that you've played. It's hard to look at one game and figure out how it correlates because there is none. But they're fun to watch.
Thank you, Mike.
About that Missouri softball team, not only did they not make the conference tournament, they had to host it that year. So they had to host it. They didn't play in.
And then got an NCAA bid.
They did.
The week after. Yeah.
Shifting gears, Coach, you want to talk a little bit about a Tennessee team we've already played that we'll see again Monday?
Sure. Yeah, you know, it's this is one time I do know about our next opponent a little bit more. They've continued to play great. I think they're rounding into what we all expected. I picked them preseason number 2. Paul can verify that. I think he saw my list that day we ate that day, Paul. I thought they were going to have a really good year. I really did. And they are. They had tough blow. You know, the Green kid just went down with an ACL, and she had been playing a really big role for them. But they're used to playing without. We all are now. So, you know, Ray Burrell being back. That was a very physical game. If anybody needs a refresher, we had a lead going into the 4th quarter and weren't able to hold on to it. So, it's a very, very good, very talented. They're really good at home. I think we learned a lot from that game that we can improve on. You know, we've got to defend without fouling. That was the game where we had 5 people foul out. So lots of areas to improve. I know that Tennessee has improved as well. Be a big Monday game, give our kids a chance to go down and see the Basketball Hall of Fame. We've not been able to go there as a team because every time we've played there, it's been closed. And it was supposed to be closed on Monday, but fortunately we got it set up for a little special showing. So we're looking forward to that trip.
Paul.
Hi, this is kind of just a team question.
Sure.
With your young team, how much does confidence play a part in these last 2 games? You feel
I think confidence is important, and no matter your age of any team. I'm old, and confidence is a lot to me. I think it's the one thing that sometimes we get caught up in the X's and the O's and all the other stuff that goes into it. And I will tell you, particularly with our team, we've never played good if we didn't feel good. So, you know, like that week we came back, we had all kinds of stuff going on. We did everything we could do to try to feel good, but none of us did. We were all kind of sick. You know, we were all, you know, all that stuff going on. So I think confidence is, if I could gift them one thing, it would be that. I think it makes you play harder. I think it makes you play better. I think it makes you play more together. All the things that coaches want to be more of, confidence is that. I don't think you can give kids false confidence these days. You know, there's that great line in Moneyball when they say, give him some. You can't give confidence anymore. There's just too many other factors to go in there. We can tell the kid, we want you to shoot that shot. We want you to do this. We want you to feel loose. We want you to, you cannot fake it anymore. Confidence is impossible to fabricate, and you can't fake it till you make it. You got to have it. So I think it's vitally important. I will tell you, I don't know all the right buttons to push with this particular team yet. I think there's a lot of trial and error to that, but I do tell you that we have more of it than we did probably 3 weeks ago. So I think it's vitally important for this, not only this game, but this next little stretch.
Yeah.
You can either look at this next little stretch as a challenge or an opportunity. And the way that we look at it will determine how much confidence we have, I think.
Well, and I'll follow up with, then what's the difference? You say they have more confidence than they have. What do you feel like as a coach? What's the difference? What do you see?
The difference in how you walk around when you win and lose. I mean, some of it's biological. We all know that the endorphins that are released when you win aren't as powerful as the endorphins that are released when you lose. That's biological. There's nothing you can do about that. I think that's the difference. I'd like to tell you it's some magical thing that we do as coaches or some drill or changing things. But I do think as coaches, we've got to be aware of it and we've got to know that that's the case. And you can't let things get stale. So you had the push-ups, you know, they cackled at me on set 5 yesterday when my arms were literally shaking because I can't do 50 straight push-ups, but I did 50 in sets, but those last 5, they were dying laughing. And it sounded good. It felt good to hear them laugh, you know? So, and I hope we can do more of that. You try to, you know, you saw the Warriors playing wiffle ball last week. You see it's not just kids, it's people, you know, it's people. I try to do things with our staff to, we're still in a pandemic and we're still coming off all those things that we dealt with. Mental health this last 2 years has become more important to me than our offensive and defensive efficiencies and wins and losses. And so, you know, there's going to be some times we might not look as prepared as we may have 3 or 4 years ago, but I certainly want to see their smiles and them laughing together. And I know that sounds not competitive. Please don't mistake me for that. But it's where we are at.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Porter.
Coach, what do you think is the biggest takeaway they took from that loss to Tennessee that they're going to really apply to this game and how they approach this game at home?
That we can play with them. I think there's so much good film that we did, so many great things we did during that game. And the things that we didn't do are all correctable. You know what I mean? There weren't like things that were like, oh, well, we can't fix that. Everything in there was fixable and correctable. So I think they'll take that main thing away. And then I think they'll understand our techniques. You know, we learned a lot about technique from our officials coordinator. I sat with her with film, and she gave me some really, really good feedback on what we can improve technically to maybe not get called for so many of those fouls. And we've been working on that. And I think as a result, you've started to see some of that in the games. We've not fouled as much. Our technique is better. And, you know, it takes a game like that to realize you can stand up, you can fight, you know, you can hang in there. We did. We hung in there against a really physical team, and now we improve our technique and improve our approach. And there can be noticeable benefits to that if we do all those things at the same time.
What does that say about your program, your staff, the players? You know, you're talking about the confidence that you're going into these games against Carolina, UConn, Baylor, Tennessee, that now you're expecting to win and not just going into a game expecting to lose. And when you lose, you're walking away from it knowing that you should have had it.
That we're kind of in that conversation still. You know, I don't want us to be the Arkansas team that has a good couple of years and then goes back to 12th in the league or 13th or 14th. You know, it's okay to go down. I think all of us knew. Paul, again, I got to talk back to that lunch we had, Paul. We were sitting there, can we be in the middle of this league? You know, and I was hopeful that we could because I thought that would be good enough. I just don't want us to go, you know, toward the, you know, being in conversation of getting a bye in the first round of the SEC tournament to all the way down to being a lock for Wednesday. I mean, I get it. We're in the top. We may have to play on Wednesday. Somebody good's going to have to play on Wednesday. Might be us. I don't know. But I don't want it to be like, oh, they're picked 4th this year and 14th 2 years later. I want it to be more steady. I don't want there to be the you know, this is where I do want us to kind of be a merry-go-round a little bit. You know, let's be in this conversation and maybe a tilt-a-whirl or something. We go up and down, but I do think that it means that we're at that point that where the expectations are that we can beat anybody that we play. It's a double-edged sword, if for a better lack of a better reference. It goes both ways. You want to be in it, but it does create challenges.
Appreciate it, Coach. Thank you.
Yep.
Randy, take us home.
By the way, Mike, I need some of those positive endorphins if you got any that you can spare. I need as many.
I've talked to medical friends of mine that said if you can develop a supplement that will make winning feel as good as losing hurts, you will be a billionaire. So I don't know that that's possible, but yeah, there's, if you find them, Randy, I'll share with you. If you find them, you share with me, please. Cause that would make my coaching career maybe not longer, but maybe more enjoyable.
In my maddening business, you need them as much as possible.
Yeah.
It's all about matchups.
Yep.
What did you learn from the last matchup with Tennessee in regards to your personnel, how you may want to match up? You talked about you've improved on cleaning up the fouls, but matchups will make a huge difference.
Well, I think we learned that we don't match up well individually with them. That's one that I think we are very self-aware, we're very honest with ourselves. If we did that little exercise that we all talk about, I think most of the matchups probably lean Tennessee's way. So with that being said, that immediately shouts out to our team, we got to do it together. I need your help. When I'm guarding Jordan Horston, I'm going to do my best to guard her, but I might need your help in my gap. And then as a result, that means we're going to have to help the helper a little bit. And it becomes more of a team attack than a personal. I did feel like Mississippi State was hey, you win your matchup. You win your matchup. You win your matchup. That's not the case with Tennessee. I don't think we win many of those matchups. And that's okay. Don't try to approach that game that way. Approach this game as us versus them. And when you need my help, I'll be there for you. When you need my help, I'll be there for you type situation. So I think we learned that. Maybe I think we went into that game hoping we could match up and win individual matchups, but I think we learned that wasn't the case. So let's not try the same thing over and over and expect a different result. Let's go down there with a plan of we got to do this together, and I need your help, and you're going to need mine, and I'll be there for you. You be there for me, all the way down the line. And I think not only do you have to do that against Tennessee, but I think you have to do that on the road in general. I think that started to show in our game at Alabama a little bit. So hopefully we can bottle that up and take it with us to Knoxville.
All right, Mike, final question.
Yep.
How important will your bench be in this game?
The Tennessee game?
Yes.
Immensely. Yeah. Because again, tomorrow night, you look at LSU's minutes per play, they play a lot of minutes. So we may have a similar short rotation against LSU and then turn right around on Monday and it be exactly the opposite, where you may see 12 or 14 kids playing in shorter spurts in specific matchups. So keeping those kids confident through these last 2 or 3 games where maybe they hadn't played as much, and Emory Ellis and Oberg, Alana, those kids that hadn't played as many minutes, let them know that it's nothing that they're doing. It's just the way the matchups have fallen on the schedule. So our bench will be probably as important as it's been all year when we go to Tennessee on Monday.
BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the #1 spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile wagering to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE to get started. That's BLEAV. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.